And one of the primary things that you cover in your magazine
Mm-hmm.
are auctions.
That's correct.
Let us know what your main target audience is,
Mm-hmm.
and what you think the bulk of your magazine is about.
Well, our main target audience is as I mentioned before, is hardcore buyers and sellers of antiques.
Mm-hmm.
People who are actually buying and selling them. It's not, the people who read Maine Antique Digest are not reading it to look, how to decorate their home, or, how they're going to put the paint decorated cupboard in their kitchen. These are people who really buy and sell antiques. They research them in depth. They take it very seriously. They're our hardcore audience. So we have a large section of auction catalogs, because you have to keep track on the history of the market. When did this piece, if a piece comes up again, what did it bring the first time, and have the market forces changed since then? Is it something that's now out of vogue?
We're familiar with Christie's and Sotheby's
Mm-hmm.
and Skinner's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any other ones that I'm missing?
Oh, sure. Northeast Auctions based out of Portsmouth. They are a powerhouse auctioneer.
Uh-huh.
Pook and Pook in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. They are
Sure.
a powerhouse auction firm. And there's auction firms in Maine that handle stuff that's not, while they don't crack $1 million normally, they handle some great things.
Such as?
James Julia up in Fairfield. That's a terrific auction house, has a lot of sales, a lot of good things come through there. Kaja Veyu in Thomaston, Thomaston Place Auction Galleries, he gets a lot of things, particularly art. Kaja's very strong in art, gets a lot of great pictures. Jimmy Sear up in Gray, a lot of really good Americana comes through there. Hap Moore down in York.
So Maine alone.
Maine is a great source of antiques, and there are things that sell at Sears up in Gray for more than they would sell in New York City. In other words, a good country piece at Sears will do very well. In New York City, it might not.
Sure.
It might not. The tastes are a little bit different. So he does a great job for his consigners.
What is a consigner, and what rights do a consigner have?
Well, the consignor is the person who actually owns the piece. It's being sold for them by the auctioneer on their behalf. The auctioneer typically will take a percentage of that, and that should all be spelled out in a contract. You should never send anything to auction without a contract. All the terms should be laid out in the contract very clear. One of the terms that is in play on a piece is the reserve, and reserve meaning the absolute minimum price that you will sell that piece for. The consignor would set that reserve.
Okay.
So if you have a $1,000 piece and you don't want to let it go for less than $1,000, you would set your reserve at $1,000. If you're a consignor and you bid on it, it's illegal unless there are times that there's often a sales room announcement made that interested parties may be bidding. A lot of times what that is the family is bidding on the piece. The seller will pay a commission. For instance, on that $1,000 piece,
It's usually around 12 to 15%.
12 to 15.
Right?
It depends. It varies, and it's on a sliding scale. The more expensive your piece is, the less percentage the auction house is going to take from you. The cheaper it is, the more they're going to take. 25% sometimes. If it's a $100 item and the seller's commission is 25, they're going to take 25 bucks right off the top, as well as the buyer's premium on top of that. All of those terms should be spelled out in your contract.
What are some of the rules of thumb to be a bidder? I mean, hopefully you're going to go to the preview.
I was going to say the rule of thumb is preview, 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 preview. If you're going to be a bidder at an auction, you must go to the preview. It's free to get in. There's no. A lot of people, to this day, people don't understand that you don't have to pay to get into an auction. Occasionally, an auction will make you buy a catalog to get in. Occasionally, it's very rare now. It's free to go in. Every piece that's going to be sold is out on the floor. Look at it, and I mean, you want to look at it like you're thinking about taking it to the prom. You want to look at every flaw possible in that piece. Don't look at it through rosy eyes. You want to look at every flaw you can possibly find in the piece.
And you can get in there. You can pull drawers
You can
out,
pull it.
flip
You can
them
flip
over.
it. You don't really want to flip it yourself. You want to ask an
Yeah.
auction staff to do it, but they will be happy to do it. You can take the paintings off the wall. You can flip them around. Look on the backs. You can blacklight a painting if you want. I mean, they will let you do just about anything. Again, as long as you have a professional help. Sam always said, take it outside. take it outside, put it in the sunlight, because the sunlight is it's the best light you'll ever have. And then once you've determined if this is a piece you're interested in, then you have to set what you're going to pay and try not to get caught up in auction fever, where you end up overpaying. When you get in the heat of the moment, people sometimes will go up and over that, and it takes
which, as a consigner, that's what you're hoping
that's what
for.
you're hoping for, right? It takes a disciplined bidder. In case of a much more expensive piece, it's worth it to pay a dealer to do your bidding for you. A dealer is a professional. This is what they do all day long, and there are times that it's worth paying a dealer a commission and letting them handle the sale for you.
Not all, but some auction houses will, in their preview catalog, give you an estimate of or a range of where they think a piece should sell for.
Right. I mean, the estimate is a very broad number.
Sure.
And it is frequently incorrect. But
that was my next question. How accurate do you think?
Well, it's the auctioneer and their staff, what their best idea is of what this piece should sell for. But again, market forces, especially in an auction room, they can change on a dime, really. Yeah. If you get two crazy people who really want this piece, it can go way up over the estimate. And if you get a piece that's out of vogue, it can go way under estimate. And that's where your reserve is going to come into play. Because if it's an absolute auction where there is no reserve and you have a great chest of drawers, conceivably it could go for $10.
Now, you just brought up the term absolute auction. What we first covered was a reserve auction, meaning a piece can be pulled at any time if they feel like it's not going to realize a reserved bid that they want. Now, all auctions, now correct me if I'm wrong, all auctions are reserved auctions. I mean, that can take place at any time, unless it is signified as an absolute auction at the gavel.
That is correct. That is correct.
Right?
According to the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, all auctions are considered with reserve unless stated otherwise.
Okay.
Unless stated otherwise. Although there are times you can have a piece with a reserve in an absolute auction. You can have a piece as long as it's noted.
The other thing that I'd like to know is, this magazine is so in-depth about auction. What else do you think is a primary function and concentration of the magazine that the viewers would be interested in?
We like to delve into scholarship because scholarship will also affect the market. There are times we like to get in depth on makers, artists, schools of makers, regions, that sort of thing, because they can affect the market. And the more you know, in this business, knowledge is power. So the more you know, the better you are. The most famous one, of course, is the C. Lee beds, which were these great Victorian beds that were all stamped C. Lee. Yeah. For years and years, it was thought that C. Lee was a free African American in New Orleans who made these, and it was a great thing because this was an African American made piece. Well, it turns out C. Lee was a manufacturer in Massachusetts. So it had built, and once we published the story, killed the market for C. Lee.
For C. Lee. You must get some mixed responses from dealers then.
There are times, yeah, sure.
They're like, well, why'd you do that? You're killing me.
But the more information, the better. I mean, nobody wants to own a piece with a dubious history. And
at the same time, by shedding light on some positive aspects of things, that you are now increasing, you can contribute to the popularity and increase in demand of certain things as you uncover more and more history.
Right, that's right.
And maybe not as a major collector, reading your magazine may also shed light on things that they own, and whether you're concerned about the value being increased or not, you're going to gain knowledge, and you may even get a greater appreciation for what you own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent.